Welcome back to the deep dive. This is where we cut through the noise, stack the sources, and really extract the knowledge you need right now. Today, we're doing a deep dive into E.O. Richking's source, Beyond Swagger, the true soul of a gentleman.
Yeah, and the mission for you listening today is pretty specific. We want to help you move past just, the surface level performance, past just looking confident, and really pull out the actual blueprint for building um, genuine, lasting substance, real character.
It's about being good, not just looking good.
Exactly.
And the source, it really doesn't hold back, does it? It kicks off with this pretty blunt idea, calls it a crisis of character.
The argument is that swagger basically has replaced substance. So we end up with, a generation of men who are maybe masters of performance. They know the pose, the projection.
They know how to look the part.
Right. But they don't know how to actually be the part. It's like great marketing, maybe, but the product itself feels a bit hollow.
Okay, so before we get lost in the critique, how does Rich King define this gentleman then? Because that word can feel a bit dated.
That's a really important point. And he clarifies it immediately. This isn't about, like, old-fashioned aristocracy or having money. Not at all. It's about a timeless internal framework. We're talking about men whose strength is genuinely guided by honor.
Okay.
And that honor is tempered by wisdom and that it gets expressed through service. It's really a call to be the kind of man who, just by being there, makes the environment better, lifts it up.
I like that focus, because the source argues the fallout from this swagger-first culture isn't theoretical. It's stuff we see every day. It talks about the real costs, and they're significant. Relationships collapsing because there's no stable character there.
Right. And young men missing out on connecting with, quality women because they genuinely don't know how to honor them properly. They don't have the framework.
And there's a really serious point made about women's safety, too, isn't there?
Yes, and the source confronts this directly. Rich King argues that fundamentally, when men lose character, women often lose safety. Because if a man is only about performance or swagger, he might start treating women like objects or, prizes to be won.
Instead of people to be valued and respected.
Exactly. That whole approach, it's built on scarcity, on consumption, not respect, which is a total inversion of what he's advocating.
So that contrast, consumption versus honor, it leads us straight into the foundation of the whole thing, which is chapter 2, honor itself. He tries to strip away the historical baggage. How does he define it at its core?
He boils it down to something really simple, almost stark. Your word is your bond.
Okay, sounds straightforward. But what does that mean for you, the listener, practically? When things get tough, when it's inconvenient?
Well, the Course explains it as integrity without an audience.
Yeah.
It means you're fundamentally the same person in private as you are in public. Your moral compass doesn't shift depending on who's watching.
Ah, so it's about that consistency. Are you the same talking to the CEO as you are talking to, say, the cleaning staff?
Exactly. Or are you the same person at work as you are at home in your most private moments? That consistency, that's the real test of honor according to this source.
That consistency feels like the bedrock. But then the source says this honor needs 3 non-negotiable pillars to stand up. Take one away, and it all falls apart. Let's break those down. The first one is integrity.
Right. And integrity here, it's defined as this kind of radical honesty. No need for masks, no performance.
Yeah.
It means being absolutely rock solid, whether things are going incredibly well for you or, you're failing spectacularly.
So the real test isn't when you're successful.
No, not at all. Your integrity isn't really tested when you've just made a fortune.
Yeah.
It's tested when you lose everything, maybe. And still, you choose to do the right thing, the quiet thing, even if it hurts your reputation or your bank account. That's integrity.
Which naturally leads into the second pillar he identifies, courage. And it seems like he means more than just physical bravery.
Oh, definitely. This is moral courage, moral backbone. It's about choosing what's right over what's easy, consistently. And the source really emphasizes that true courage isn't just about fighting for yourself. It may be more about the strength to defend people who can't defend themselves.
Okay.
And maybe the toughest part, having the guts to admit when you are fundamentally wrong. Even when saying, I messed up, costs you something significant, status, a client, maybe even a relationship.
That requires real security in yourself, doesn't it? Because someone relying on swagger, on performance, they can never admit fault. Their whole image depends on being infallible.
Precisely. The performance can't handle the truth of imperfection. And that brings us to the third pillar. Service. This is where the strength finds its ultimate expression.
How so?
The core idea is that you use your strengths, your talents, your success, your energy to lift other people up, not to dominate them, not to control them. The mantra is basically lift as you climb. If your success only benefits you, the source kind of suggests that strength is ultimately, well, wasted.
Okay, so that's the external foundation. Honor, built on integrity, courage, and service. Then the deep dive shifts inward to what RICHKING calls the inner gentleman, which makes sense, right? You can fake the outside for a while, but if the inside's broken...
It'll show eventually, yeah. Chapter 3 tackles this internal compass directly, and it makes a really interesting claim that most men confuse their preferences.
Yeah.
What they like, which changes all the time with their actual values.
Preferences versus values. How do you tell the difference? How does the listener know which is which for them?
This is where the source gives you a kind of personal audit or relevance check. Your real values, it argues, aren't what you say they are. They're revealed in 3 key areas. First, what do you actually do when nobody is watching?
Okay. Integrity without an audience again.
Exactly. Second, where do you consistently spend your time and your money? That shows what you prioritize. And third, which principles do you start compromising when you're under serious pressure? If you say integrity is a value, but you compromise it for money when squeezed, well then financial advantage might be your actual operating value.
That's quite a challenge. That internal clarity then paves the way for Chapter 4, cultivating quiet strength. I found this section really compelling, especially today when loudness often gets mistaken for strength.
Right. The author is very clear. The loudest guy in the room is rarely the strongest. Real strength doesn't need to shout. It's calm, it's steady, and it's built on a foundation of healthy self-perception. Not arrogance, but genuine self-worth.
He uses a personal story here, doesn't he? The mirror moment.
Yes, it's quite powerful. He talks about hitting rock bottom, crushed by debt, betrayal from partners, and he found himself constantly trying to overprove himself, desperate for validation, obsessing over what people thought.
Trying to answer questions about his worth that maybe nobody else was even asking. So what clicked? What changed?
The click was realizing he let external opinions define his core sense of self. The shift didn't come from trying harder to prove he was good or successful. It came from radically owning his situation. He stopped defining himself as a failure and instead saw himself as a man who had made a mistake. Big difference.
Owning the action, not internalizing the label.
Exactly. He stopped trying to win back approval from those who had let him down. And that acceptance, that ownership, allowed him to simplify things, speak plainly, state his terms clearly, and ironically, he found he gained more respect that way than when he was desperately trying to impress everyone.
That makes perfect sense. So quiet strength really is power under control.
Yeah.
And that composure under pressure, the source says, becomes your biggest asset. It makes you the person others naturally turn to when things get chaotic. You become the calm in the storm.
And that control has to extend inward, too, to your emotional world. Which brings us to Chapter 5, Emotional Mastery. This directly attacks that destructive myth, real men don't cry, or that showing emotion is weak.
Which just leads to bottling things up.
Yeah, suppression. Which the source calls creating emotional time bombs. Just waiting to explode inappropriately.
Okay, but if suppression is bad, how is mastery different? It's not just about letting your emotions run wild either, is it?
No, not at all. The key insight here is a reframe. Emotions aren't weaknesses. They're actually sophisticated information systems. They're giving you data.
Data, how so?
Well, think about it. Fear isn't just being scared. It's often a signal that something you value is at risk. Anger, while it can be destructive if uncontrolled, is often just information telling you a boundary has been crossed or a core value violated. Mastery isn't about not feeling. It's about correctly interpreting the information the feeling gives you.
Ah, okay. So you feel the emotion fully, you understand the message it's sending, you process that message wisely, and then you choose your response based on that wisdom, not just on the raw feeling itself.
Precisely. That's the practice.
Can you give a quick example?
Sure. The source might say, okay, you feel absolutely furious because someone disrespected a boundary. You feel that heat, that anger. Register it. But mastery allows you to pause, process, I'm angry because X happened and that violated value Y, and then choose to respond calmly and clearly about the boundary violation.
Instead of just yelling or firing off an angry email you regret later.
Exactly. You use the information from the anger to generate an intentional, measured response rather than letting the anger itself dictate an explosive reaction.
Got it. Okay, that covers a lot of the internal landscape.
Huh.
Once a man has that foundation, honor, clarity, Emotional control, where does he apply it? The source seems to pivot directly to relationships, specifically Chapter 6 on the lost art of courtship.
Yes, and it draws a really sharp contrast. Modern casual dating often operates from a place of, what can I get out of this?
Mm.
Whereas intentional courtship, as described here, asks, what can I give? How can I contribute to this person's life? It shifts from consumption to contribution.
And there's a key prerequisite mentioned before a man should even think about courtship, right?
Yeah. A crucial one. The man must first build the genuine capacity for friendship with women. He needs to learn how to interact with them, as the source puts it, in all purity, treating them with the respect you'd show a sister or a mother. If a man can't maintain healthy, non-sexualized friendships with women, if there's always a hidden agenda, the source argues he's simply not ready to court someone honorably. His foundation is shaky.
That ties into what the source calls the clarity imperative, doesn't it? It seems quite critical of ambiguous modern dating behaviors.
Very critical. It argues it's actually profoundly cruel to sort of hang around a woman, say nice things, act interested, imply things, and then just vanish. Ghosting, breadcrumbing, all that.
Without ever being clear about intentions.
Right. A gentleman, in this view, is intentional and clear. His words mean something. They carry weight. The clarity imperative demands you define the nature of the relationship or the pursuit clearly, and you do it reasonably quickly. You don't exploit someone's hope or vulnerability by keeping things deliberately vague just because it's easier for you. If you're not pursuing, you find a kind and respectful way to say so.
That level of intention makes sense. And Chapter 8 seems to broaden this idea of respect. It states pretty plainly, how you treat all women reveals your character, not just how you treat the ones you're trying to date or impress.
Yeah, this is where RICHKING really circles back to the objectification crisis. The source flatly rejects the societal tendency to blame women for men's lack of self-control. You know, the whole look how she was dressed argument.
She was asking for it, that kind of thing.
Exactly. The source asserts that kind of thinking reveals a deep character failure in the man, not an issue with the woman. A woman's attractiveness or her clothing choices grants no man any right whatsoever to violate her dignity or her safety. The responsibility for self-control rests entirely with a man of character.
And the litmus test for this seems to be what the source calls the friendship test. It connects back to that prerequisite for courtship.
It does. Can you accept pure connection, kindness, friendship, even just a smile from a woman without immediately twisting it into some kind of sexual or romantic signal?
Can you see kindness just as kindness?
Right. Kindness is not automatically a come-on. A gentleman needs to be secure enough in himself to have genuine, healthy, platonic friendships with women, without that constant undercurrent of a hidden agenda. If every interaction with an attractive woman becomes, in his mind, a negotiation for sex or romance, the source says he's failed the friendship test. He needs to go back and work on his own character foundation.
Okay, shifting gears slightly to a very modern challenge. Chapter 10, Digital Decency. The internet can feel anonymous, unaccountable. How does honor apply online?
The warning here is stark. Your online presence is your reputation in digital form. There's no offline mode for character. In fact, the source argues the internet is maybe the ultimate test. Why? Because it often removes immediate face-to-face accountability.
So how you behave online when you think maybe no one important is watching reveals your true character.
Precisely. How you talk about others, how you handle disagreements, the kind of content you consume and share, it's all a reflection. It's the ultimate stage for integrity without an audience.
So for the listener navigating this, what's the one key actionable piece of advice from the source?
It boils down to a simple pre-post check-in. Before you hit send, post, or share, ask yourself, will I be proud of this in 5 years? Does this truly reflect the man I aspire to be? And recognize, crucially, that your digital footprint is effectively permanent. Future partners, employers, even your kids might see it one day. If you wouldn't say it out loud in a room full of people you respect, you probably shouldn't be putting it online.
Wow. Okay, so that takes us on the whole journey from challenging surface swagger to building the internal assets, honor that internal compass, emotional control, and then applying it in relationships and online. It's quite a framework.
It is. It's substantial work. But the source argues the payoff goes way beyond just personal improvement. The final chapters, 13 and 15, they really shift focus to the long game. Legacy.
Legacy. How does character connect to legacy?
RICHKING's point is profound. Your greatest accomplishment in life won't ultimately be the money you make or the status you achieve. It'll be who you develop into.
Yeah.
The character you build, that internal substance, becomes a permanent asset. It's non-taxable, you could say. and it influences generations through your actions, your modeling, your presence. Your legacy is truly built by modeling authentic, honorable manhood day in and day out.
That really elevates the stakes of the internal choices we make every single day. So this brings us to the final challenge, the provocative thought the author leaves for every man engaging with this material. As you finish listening to this deep dive, you face a choice.
Yeah, it's a fundamental choice. Will you just be a reader? Someone who nods along, thinks, yeah, that makes sense. Maybe feels inspired for a moment, but then slips back into the old, easier patterns as soon as life gets busy or challenging.
Or will you choose to be a doer? A man who decides right now to start the hard, often uncomfortable work of actually implementing what you now understand. Choosing honor when ease is tempting. Choosing integrity when corner cutting offers an advantage. The source is pretty clear. The world doesn't need more performance, more swagger. It desperately needs more substance. It needs men who make every room they enter genuinely better, just by being who they are.